all you Kawi H2 owners and fans, don't run now. Yeah, those fans and owners of the Kawasaki H2, they always want to compare apples to oranges, i.e. the Kawasaki H2 to the stock Suzuki Hayabusa. Well, they want to do that until somebody like me brings up the SuperBusa. And now it's, oh, they're not the same class. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a deep dive into the Gen 3 TTS SuperBusa. We're going to talk about the numbers in reference to the power that it makes, the torque that it makes, and of course we got to talk about how much it's going to cost. But before you do, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. Join the Two Wheel family. Doesn't cost you nothing. Just hit the subscribe button and then you're in the Two Wheel family. We're a positive group of motorcycle riders and we like to pass on knowledge and information. And we support all riders, no matter what you ride. Let's dive into it. Now, as long as I've been in the motorcycle community, which has been over 24 years now, there's always been a debate whether what's the fastest bike or what's the best brand, or, you know, who's the fastest rider, who's the best drag racer or road course racer. It's always been a competition within. So, of course, needless to say, that has continued to this day within the motorcycle community. And, you know, each year a new bike comes out, a new brand brings a bigger bike, and it just continues that conversation. It'll go from Yamaha to Suzuki to Honda to Kawi, you know. So right now, people are really putting the Kawasaki H2 as the head honcho right now. But I have a problem with that, you know. So, because when it comes to that, some people will do comparisons based on CCs, based on the class of the motorcycle. Like, you'll compare all 600s together, you'll compare 750s, you'll compare 1000s. Now, it gets a bit tricky once you get past the 1000, because of course then you have the 1340cc Hayabusa, and then you have the 1441cc Kawasaki ZX14. But for the love of me, I can't figure out why there's several people out here, and they've mentioned it to me, and they did the comparison of comparing a stock Hayabusa to a supercharged H2. How do you, that's apples to watermelons almost. Two totally different bikes. So I feel like if you're gonna compare, you need to find a supercharged bike that you can compare it to. And that's why I bring up the SuperBusa. And like I said myself, I don't even compare the ZX14 to the Busa, because like I said, it's essentially 101cc difference, because the stock Busa is 1341cc and the ZX14 is 1441cc. So essentially 101 different cc. So is that in the same class? You know, let me know what you think, because I personally think that's like comparing a 600 to a 750. But that's just my opinion. So in this video, we're going to be talking about the Gen 3 TTS SuperBusa. And that's me comparing apples to apples, supercharged bike to supercharged bike. So we're going to compare the SuperBusa to the Kawasaki H2. It ain't really too much comparison, but since people want to pit the stock Busa against the supercharged H2, you know, we're going to do it the right way. So apples to apples or oranges to oranges, but no more apples to oranges. Now, all of the information and photos are going to be courtesy of the guys over at TTS Performance in Silverstone, UK. Yeah, they're across the pond. And in my opinion, their work and their innovation has produced the GOAT of street legal supercharged motorcycles. And that is, of course, the SuperBusa. So in the beginning, what they wanted to do was basically create the bike that Suzuki was afraid. Yeah, I'm going to use the word afraid, because when you don't do something, a lot of times it could be because you're afraid of the outcome maybe. But I think Suzuki was afraid to do it. Now, Kawi wasn't afraid because, of course, they came out with the H2. But TTS Performance said, you know what? We're not afraid. We're going to do it. And we're going to show Suzuki what they were supposed to come out with. Me personally, I think it would have been a great idea for Suzuki to come out with a supercharged bike. Now, hopefully, you know, they're taking note for what TTS Performance is doing, and maybe they'll do a collaboration between Suzuki and them, to where, you know, this is going to be something direct from the factory that people can get. But hey, times are changing. People are stepping up their game. We can't be behind too long, Suzuki. Like, I'm a Suzuki fan, so we got to get along, you know, come along with the time. So hopefully, I'm crossing my fingers that one day Suzuki will say, hey, let's get on board and let's start producing this SuperBusa in collabs with TTS Performance. So the brains behind the operation at TTS Performance is Mr. Richard Albans. He's been building these supercharged Hayabusas for years, and he has everything down to a science. And, you know, he decided to collaborate with Carly from Car Design Concepts to bring along, you know, the different graphics and paint schemes and all of that type of stuff. So they're, you know, tag teaming this thing. So with Richard having over 25 years in this game of producing supercharged Hayabusas, like, there's no way that he wouldn't be the one that would build the most insane, muscle, mind-bending, crazy sport bike that's gonna blow the minds of people. And so with TTS Performance, their thing was, you know what? We're gonna pretty much double the power, we're gonna double the horsepower, we're gonna double the speed, and then we're gonna give people the ability to say, hey, you know what? I've got the fastest, or at least one of the fastest street bikes out here in the game. Now, TTS Performance said that the SuperBusas will be very limited. They're only going to be doing 40 of these, and I've seen a couple already made already. I know they've been doing this for a couple of years. So they're doing 40 because 40 is how many years that they've been, you know, in the game doing this thing. So one for every year that they've been in existence. And you'll get to do all of the, you have the option to be able to customize all your specs, you know, from the performance of the bike down to the paint and custom design. So let's talk what makes it a SuperBusa. First, we're going to start with the 1340cc factory Busa engine. It's going to have some strength in internals. We're talking pistons, we're talking connection rods, and we're talking clutch. Next, we're going to talk about the supercharger, because this is where the punch comes in at, and this is what really essentially makes it a SuperBusa, because you're going to have a Rotrex C30 94 counterclockwise centrifugal supercharger. And that's gonna give you some amazing horsepower. We're talking about brake horsepower, BHP. Okay, brake horsepower, which essentially is like rear wheel horsepower for some people. It's gonna be 380 BHP, brake horsepower. H2 who? What? H who? 2? Yeah, you heard that correct. 380 brake horsepower. And along with that, you're gonna get 197 foot-pound of torque. Now, don't go running H2 owners and fans now. And this also comes with a custom TTS drivetrain, an aluminum plenum chamber, along with an intercooler. And the chassis is also gonna get a slight modification, because it's gonna go to a single-sided swing arm now. So that way, you know, you get a little bit more stability as well as you get to show off that wheel. And you're also going to get K-Tech front fork piston kits to help with the handling and stability. And to tap into the aerodynamic side of things, you're going to get some carbon fiber custom winglets. And they're not glued on. These winglets are going to be structurally attached to the subframe inside the fairing. That's going to help with stability during high speeds. None of that double-sided tape stuff. And to drop the weight on the wheels, you're going to get the Rotobox carbon fiber wheels. That's going to drop about 13 pounds or 6 kilograms, depending on where you're at, from the factory wheels. And that's going to improve that stopping and handling. Now, the custom built plenum chamber and intercooler are made from 6082 alloy. And that gives them the ability to withstand the pressures required for optimum performance of the SuperBusa, i.e. they stack up for the job. So with all that power and all that torque that TTS Performance put into this bike, they had to make sure that you could stop it. So you're going to get the bigger 330 millimeter brake tech twin disc up front, along with the Brembo RCS master cylinder and matching brake tech rear disc. And that'll give it the stopping power it needs. And when it comes to aesthetics, you're gonna get your fair share from bespoke parts. You're gonna have several custom parts, from the supercharger cover all the way to the fuel tank vents and a couple other things. So this TTS SuperBusa is essentially doubling the horsepower as well as the torque from a stock Gen 3 Suzuki Hayabusa. That's crazy. And as far as comparing it to the H2 numbers by Kawasaki, they only pushing 240. Well, it's weird saying only 240, but the Kawasaki H2 is pushing 240 BHP, rear wheel horsepower, whatever you want to call horsepower in general, 240. So you look at the SuperBusa that's at 380 and you minus 240, you do the math. So I don't have to. Good luck keeping up. But I'm just playing. I'm gonna do the math for you, of course. So you're gonna essentially need about 140 more horsepower to keep up with the SuperBusa if you got an H2 by Kawasaki. So that's what happens when you want to compare apples to oranges. So normally I wouldn't compare the two because the SuperBusa is so out of the H2's league with 380 horsepower to 240 horsepower. But sometimes people just want to always compare apples to oranges, so I decided to hop in and compare apples to oranges instead of apples to apples. So if you're interested in learning more about the TTS Performance SuperBusa, make sure you go to superbusa.com and you can check out all the specs, all the tech. You can get pricing information real quick. It's probably going to cost you, I think, about $60,000 US to purchase one of these, because I think it's about 50 euros. Okay, if I've got the money to spend and it's no object, and I got 50 grand for either bike, of course I'm gonna go and get the SuperBusa, because that's 140 more horsepower that I have in the bike. Granted, not gonna use it, but it's there and I can say I got it. So I'm pretty sure most people would, unless you're a stone cold Cowie fan, then only would you go and get the H2 over a SuperBusa. So hey, I appreciate you guys. If you haven't already, do me a favor, hit that wonderful subscribe button. Also like, share, and comment. And until next video, it's your main man, Busa. I'm up out of here. Peace.